I'm Gold Derby editor Daniel Montgomery here with the Emmy nominees behind Stranger Things, casting director Carmen Cuba, music supervisor Nora Felder, prosthetics designer Barrie Gower, hair department head Sarah Hindsgaul, stunt coordinator Hiro Koda, production designer Chris Trujillo, and editor Dean Zimmerman. Pleasure to have all of you here. Let's jump right in, talk about one of the big developments of season 4, which was the introduction of Vecna. And, creating that character involved multiple departments on the show, starting, of course, with casting Jamie Campbell-Bower in the role. Carmen, given the different forms we see him in, like from the friendly orderly to the demon of the Upside Down, how challenging was it to find someone who could really channel all those dimensions of that character?
It's interesting. It was challenging for multiple reasons. One, we obviously were in no way allowed to talk about what the character was going to be. The second was that we couldn't even use real scenes to audition with. So we used Primal Fear and Hellraiser. So a scene from each of those. And then we needed someone to be at least 5'10", and we needed very thin features. So it was sort of, and as with every person we add to this cast, they also needed to be at least as good as our current cast, which is a very high bar to reach. So yeah, all of those things made it very challenging, but the good news with Jamie was that, what he was able to do, which I only now realize, because when you're in it, you're just sort of seeing a bunch of different characters at the same time and just responding to who you respond to. But what he did with those fake sides was also, he clearly paid attention to the tone of Stranger Things. So he somehow did those scenes with the same energy and tone that is so specific to our show. So we responded to him very quickly and sort of moved him through the process quickly.
And Barrie, how did you go about designing those, creepy prosthetics that really brought the character to life in such a big way?
Well, we were really fortunate because we this is our first season on Stranger Things, and season 4 is our first opportunity to work with everybody, and we were really fortunate because when we first got the call, there were already concept art and blueprints that had been predetermined, and Matt and Ross Duffer were very clear in their brief of what they wanted with this character. This is going to be their first sort of big bad, their first villain, which was going to be sort of humanoid in form and predominantly practical on set as well. So they were very keen that they wanted a prosthetics character. So our first conversation was, it was extremely exciting because there were already these images designed by Michael Meyer, and the actual concept art that they presented to us is very close to what you see in the final show. So there were some changes, a few compromises and a few nuances that we made to the actual original design throughout the build. But we were very fortunate. It's very unusual to join a show and you are given a brief and concept art from the outset, because we're quite used to being brought on board and you spend weeks or months developing a character, going through lots of different iterations. So it was great that it was already a very clear brief. So we worked very closely with Matt and Ross and Michael with the build, the character of Vecna and the sculpture. And we tried to follow Michael's designs to the T as close as we could. And we just kept communication throughout the whole build, which was it was probably about an 8-month build doing creating the Vecna prosthetics, from the point that we did a full body live cast of Jamie in the January, I think, of 2020. Literally just started putting clay onto his body cast and the whole world went into lockdown. So we all shut down for 3 months. Then came back in the June and carried on our build uninterrupted, really, because there were no other productions sort of running at the time. So we were able to just focus on the build of Vecna. And then we did a final camera test. I think it was in the November of that year of 2020. And then we shot 3 days later. So So we were very fortunate that there were already blueprints, and there'd already been a whole load of discussions about this character before we were even approached.
And how complicated is it to design makeup and prosthetics when you've got visual effects also involved and sort of, designing with both in mind?
Again, I think we were very lucky. I mean, we'd never met the visual effects department on the show. And I think from a practical prosthetics point of view, we always work very closely with the visual effects department on any given show. So again, in that initial meeting, it was already established that they wanted a very practical, grounded character, which they were basically saying, we want this guy to be in prosthetics and be as near to 100% in prosthetics on camera. But they're also very clear that there was going to be a crossover between our departments where visual effects would be they'd be contributing elements that we wouldn't be able to achieve practically, such as the sort of really beautiful, subtle organic movement of his vines, which they took our prosthetics, they took the sculpture, they took all the forms, and they were able to manipulate those so they sort of all undulated beautifully. They removed Jamie's nose as well in post-production, so we had that sort of cavity, you could see his cartilage, and his left hand with the extended fingers. Always from the outset, originally they were saying that's going to be completely digital, purely down to the fact of the way he kills his victims and penetrating their skulls with these big long fingers. We won't be doing it practically. So, but we actually built a practical left hand for him with extended finger extensions, which we used on multiple occasions. So some of the shots he's got a fully practical hand, other shots it's a combination of two, others it's completely digital. So it was good going into it, knowing that there would be this sort of happy marriage between the two departments.
Sarah, you're working with a lot of young actors and characters who've really grown up on the show. How have you evolved their hairstyles with the actors as they're growing up and the characters as they're growing up?
Well, I think it's pretty much scripted. You can see them. This year we were lucky and we got all 9 scripts in a couple of months after we started shooting because they finished them and we were down for COVID. So we could really see the whole arc through the season, which made it a lot easier to prep this year. I think, for us, the biggest challenges this year was definitely the amount of days we were shooting, 299 shooting days. And then we were shooting in a lot of different climates, everything from like minus 20 degrees in Europe to 104 degrees in Albuquerque. So I think we, in prep this year, decided to use a lot of wig work to make it easier to restrain some of the hairstyles. And also because of the long shoot, a lot of our cast members go out and they have downtime. Sometimes they're gone for a couple of months and they come back in. And it's easier for us to have everything prepped for them. So we don't have to go through cut and color with each one of them. And it's especially hard because of the 80s aspect. We can't keep, you can't get a perm every second month. Your hair would literally fall off if we did that. So I think 8 years in, we have learned a lot from the other years. And I feel like this year we were very prepared. We are lucky to have a lot of, the wigs for a lot of our characters from some of the other seasons. So we kind of keep adding on as we go, and we will change them up as their storylines are developing. Is there any specific characters you are curious about, or you want to hear about all 22?
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing, because I think the Eddie Munson character was especially iconic this past season, and he's got that hair metal band hair. What was like working on that character, reading that one?
And it was amazing. I mean, he's a new character, so we got to design that from scratch. What I really wanted with his hair was that we wanted a natural flow. There's a lot of action in the show, and I like hair to look natural. I like it to be able to get gritty, and we want it to have a lot of texture and movement. For him, we were looking at a lot of different band pictures. And when we had, after Joe got cast, I softened the look quite a bit to make Joe look milder. I think we had, in the early prep, thought very dark, very black, straight, and it was a bit harsh. So when I met Joe the first time, he has kind of a soft wave to his own hair, and he's a light blonde. So we went with his own coloring and texture and added that length, added the layers. And then we did a lot of testing of him shaking his head upside down. I like to have all of the actors hang with their heads down, and we'll do a lot of videos of them just to make sure it can hold up in the climates that we are shooting, but also that you can, you're able to swim with it. It can get wet. It can fly through the air when we need to do the stunts. We add a lot of extra hair to our mullets in the back, just because a lot of the hairstyles are so short in the front that it really, it takes, my wig maker, we've worked together now for years, and he understands just how much extra volume we need to build into the backs for it to look natural, and for us to be able to execute the haircuts that needs to be done, and to have that natural texture and movement. So we did a lot of testing, and I think we actually had about 6 or 7 fittings with Joe before we got it right. And I always kind of wait to see, I can kind of see when my actor starts to feel ready and they really get into characters. And then that's when I know we're getting close to the end results. So it's a teamwork, between them, and I have certain ideas, but in the end of the day, they're the ones that's gonna feel in character. And that's the most important part. If he doesn't feel like Eddie, then it's just gonna look like a guy in a wig, and that's what we don't want.
And Chris, from a production design perspective, you had a number of new locations this season. You had the Creel house, both in the past and the Upside Down. You had new Russian locations, the LA storyline, the lab. What was that a lot of a lot more design work than you've done in previous seasons, just in terms of the volume of the places you were creating?
Yeah, I mean, I think scope and scale more than anything this season was sort of what was really sort of the new intensity of essentially these 4 huge storylines, each with like centerpiece sets, so yeah, I mean, the Russian prison obviously is the center of the Russian experience, and that was its own very specific ordeal. The missile silo was just an incredible set to lean into and design in our sort of desert world. My personal favorite maybe was the rainbow room. It was kind of very much my baby this year. I was very pleased with that, because we've been kind of waiting for all these seasons to really fully realize what that was, and kind of where Eleven spent those formative years. And then yeah, the Creel house obviously is sort of like dark heart of the whole season. Was a lot of fun, and then doing so many different iterations of it was a real challenge. Needing it to do so much different work, and seeing it in its pristine form and its dilapidated form and its upside down form, and then it served as sort of the base for our very abstracted mind layer situation. So yeah, but I mean, the design process is the same essentially. We just ramped up the scale, and it was a lot of fun to expand our world beyond Hawkins and see what Stranger Things looks like, on a sort of global scale. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And it seems like it must be like a fun challenge to take these locations in our dimension, and then alter them and transform them for the Upside Down.
Yeah, it is. It's fun in theory. It's like it's a real logistical nightmare in practice, but we've gotten pretty good at it over the years. We've got a really great sort of rhythm with the way we kind of schedule for it, essentially, you know, much to the credit of the AD department. We always more often than not, we're able to use the same interior builds and just sort of repurpose them and kind of readdress them to suit, you know, the upside down or not, you know. So yeah, and then I think a lot too is we're outside a lot more and we see the world expanded and sort of extended. So it was really nice to see the seamless visual effects work where we can, you know, we've kind of laid in the base layer around our actors, and then to see it sort of extended off into the impossible distance it looked great this year.
And Dean, you know, the editing was such a highlight this season, you know, because you're bringing in all those different locations and all those different storylines together into, you know, this single narrative. How complex is it to balance so many parallel storylines that really depend on each other, even as they're doing their own thing?
Well, that was one of the biggest struggles we had this season was balancing all the different locations, all the different, you know, kind of components of Stranger Things, and this season in particular kind of jammed them all into very specific sections of every specific episode. So like in even like episode 4, there was comedy, drama, you know, emotional, genre, and it was just like balancing all that stuff with all these locations and all the storylines and making it pace-wise so fast as the Duffers normally do. But this season we actually slowed down a bit, and it was where can we slow down, where can we afford to slow down and do these kind of more crafted moments, and where do we need to speed up. So one of the things this season that was different than prior seasons before is there was so much comedy in this season. We actually had to pare back a little bit, where normally we go for it, and it was a welcome add to all the different episodes and all the different parts of every episode. But this season, there was so much that we were actually paring it back so we could have the dramatic moments play a little longer and be a little more indulgent, which benefited us being able to kind of cross over into this new, more heightened genre of horror.
Hiro, we have these action scenes, you know, many spread out across the globe. You know, everything in Russia, you know, shootouts happening in various locations, a helicopter crash. Like, are there scenes that you're particularly proud of out of all of those from the action this year?
This season was quite crazy. I mean, being all over the world and having to hire stunt people from all over the place, from Poland and Lithuania, just everywhere, all the way through Albuquerque into Atlanta. And the stunts were so big this year. Like the bros like write such big things to really challenge me, which I really am stoked about, because it just makes me work even harder to kind of bring something to them. And these sets that Chris built were huge, enormous, amazing sets. And these guys, Chris and Sean and Jess, everybody were so great with like just accommodating all the we did so many wire gags in this season. I think well over 100 different wire gags, and just happened to figure out everything with all these different sets and things like that. But Chris, you guys were so amazing with everything and helping us and taking care of our people, my stunt folks. And I mean, I worked so close with Sarah and Amy, just also with like all the stunt people, and getting them all together and making sure they're all like who they need to be and what they need to look like. It's a huge challenge, and so many people that we had to like bring in, and Barrie even like figuring out with Vecna what we needed to do with him with all his flying stuff that I had to do, and all the prosthetics and what harnesses were going to work better for him. As far as going to like my favorite, it's such a hard one because we had such a blast with everything that we did. But one that I always kind of go to is the Demogorgon fight in the prison. It was such a big sequence for us, and the Duffer Brothers wanted to do like a oneer as much as they could, and killing all these prisoners, and we're fighting something that's actually not there. So being able to do pieces with a person in a green suit, and then take the guy out of it and figure out how these guys are going to be manipulated and thrown through the air from a Demogorgon that's not there. It was a big challenge for us, and it was a lot of fun kind of putting it together and testing it. We had like a ton of different testing phases, and I have a reel set together that I gave the bros, like, these are kill choices, and they just kind of went through all of them and said, I like this one, I like that one, I like this one, and that's how we sort of kind of put together the final sequence with that. And that's probably one of my favorite and most challenging ones that we got to do. The Rainbow Room, beautiful set, but one of the most difficult for us to rig in. It was such a challenge to do all, and we had tons of wire stuff in there and stunts inside that room. But again, Chris, you guys pulled it off to help us make it all work, and it all came together nicely. So,
what made that Rainbow Room particularly challenging?
The set it had a lot of moving parts in it, and there was in the main area of where the Rainbow Room was, it was a low ceiling. There was a lot of lights in there. We had a centerpiece that was able to come in and out when we needed to pull wires in. We were poking holes all over the set everywhere to try to figure out where we could pull from and manipulate everybody inside that room. And I mean, there was a lot going on inside that room, and throwing, the one through all the glass into the other room. It was quite a challenge, and it took a lot of people from my team and also from Chris's team to sort of make it all come together and work out safely for everybody. But that was a lot of fun. All the sets have been challenging and everything. I mean, it's like the bros just like they put this stuff out, and that's what it challenges me to sort of bring out, stay innovative, and, make everything exciting and new. And, you do things from the previous season to the next one. You want to just kind of up it every season and keep it going. So.
And Nora, a big part of the audience bringing them into this story and into this world is the music. And of course, this year, the big story was Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, and how it became such a huge hit thanks to how it was used on the show. How did you decide on that song and what it would mean to the Max character? And did you anticipate just how much it would explode beyond the show?
Well, with that one, originally when we got the first scripts, which was great, as Sarah said, because we had a lot of scripts in advance. That one, the Duffers had it marked as TBD Max song. So originally I thought, when I was looking at the scripts, maybe we're going to decide that later. Maybe we're going to decide it in post. But then Rand, who's our producer, and Josh called me, and they were like, the Duffers really want to decide this song now. They want you to send some ideas. It's really got to represent what Max has been through and what she's going into, and it's got to meet a lot of check marks, because this is going to be her song of the season. And if you think about it, it's essentially going to. I always say it's going to be like the Clash song was in season 1. This is, So of course I was completely freaked out, but so. I was running through ideas and even on the phone, I was spitballing, which I tend to do a lot, because my mind goes crazy and starts bouncing. And so I was on the phone with Josh and Rand, and I just started spitballing ideas, and maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. And then all of a sudden it was like, wait, 1986, Running Up That Hill. And I know Dean and Barrie have heard this 5,000 times, but it's like, and then Rand and Josh are like, oh, and I was like, yeah, that, it has everything. I mean, the lyrics, the movement, because the bros really wanted something that had a build, and the storyline with the friends trying to understand each other and switch sides, because so that everyone can understand each other, so they can help her get her strength back to fight against the monster. And the song itself is about switching sides and able to understand each other. So it was like, I love it when you find these songs that are like kismet-y, and they feel like they work on multiple levels, kind of multi-dimension. I call them kismet placements, which it isn't just about the main lyric, addresses what is going on in the scene. It's a much kind of deeper, level. So I submitted, I think it was about 8 ideas, you know, and then I sent Matt and Ross a note, and I just wrote, I just sent in a playlist of like 8 ideas, but I really think that Running It Up That Hill is because I didn't know if they knew the song or not. And I was like, I really think it just works with everything you're looking for. So maybe give it a special listen. And then the next day, Rand called and he was like, they love it. They just think it's perfect. It has everything they want. And I had this deep sigh of relief, because I mean, I think that was the first one I worked on. And for all of us probably, but every season it's like, I gotta really do a good job, and I gotta really bring my A game, and I gotta do better than last season. So having that be the first thing that I worked on for them, and then being so happy, I was just like, oh good, we're off to a good start, you know. So yeah, it just so then it turned into, okay, now I have to clear it. So, but you know, I had already called one of the reps, and I said, what is she like? Because I'm submitting this song idea, and I didn't say what it was for, but I was like, you know, what is she like? Because I've never cleared Kate Bush before, but I had heard that, you know, it's not an easy clearance. And they said, you know what, she's open. She's very particular. She's very particular about where it goes. It's not about money, but she's very, very open. So I sat down with my clearance coordinator, and we really sat and, you know, crafted. We wanted, because when we clear music, we have to add scene descriptions. So I try and take a lot of time and really craft out so that it can't be too long, but you want them to get the essence of the use and why it's important, like in this case, why it's important to the character and what it means. And I spent a couple of days on it, but after I felt really good about it, and also we were clearing multiple uses across different episodes. So I really wanted her, because I knew it was going to her, to understand the transition, you know, and that was the bonus, as Sarah said, of having quite a few scripts, so we could explain how it evolved. And she loved it. I mean, to get down to it, she loved it. Found out she was a huge fan of the show, which I didn't know, which was great. And she loved it, big fan of the Duffers, and it worked out. So yeah, that was pretty exciting in itself. You know,
and you have so much other music on the show, of course. You know, nothing exploded to the degree that Running Up That Hill did, but it's also important to the show. And did you notice that sort of Stranger Things effect, that the other music got a bump and you really drew audiences to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think what definitely, even with some of the indie songs, like in episode 3, we had this 30-second song, this 1970s, I think came out in 1975, In Transit to Bermuda, this great reggae song by Dorian Gray. We had it only for 30 seconds. And the Duffers loved it and they picked it. And I told the owners, you know, I'm like, you guys should put your music up on Spotify, put it on Spotify when the show comes out. So they didn't do it because they're like, yeah, cool, you know. But like 2 weeks later, they 2 or 3 weeks after the release, and it's already at 550,000 streams. And it's 30 seconds. You only hear 30 seconds of the song. Then there was this other song that we used in 401. It was over that really zany scene where Murray and Joyce are freaking out over the mysterious package from Russia. And I pitched a song that I've been wanting to use for years. It's called Chico Magisanita by May Arnett. And it's just one of those songs that I always felt, you know, it's indie, not many people heard it. For whatever reason, it didn't really hit. Long story short, used it worked great. And we put it on the soundtrack because it wasn't up there, and it's at 3.4 million streams now. So you know, and then of course in the episode that like Dean and Barrie and I are up for, Past the Duchy has zoomed way far up. That's at like 128 million streams. Ella Fitzgerald and you know, Louis Armstrong's Dream a Little Dream. Now that was already well known, but the label told me that's shot way up. So there really truly is a Stranger Things effect going on. I can verify that. But I think for me, I get really excited. It's kind of like doing retroactive A&R, and I love finding these songs that didn't really hit, you know, way back when, and then to see the audience resonating and loving these songs along with the show. It really, it's like you said, it's a Stranger Things effect, but I think it's just happening across the board. And I don't know, it's a great feeling to be a part of something like that, the whole phenomenon of it. Besides, Kate Bush is great, the Metallica is great. It's truly amazing that this is a historical moment in music history, because what's happening with Kate Bush has never happened, where a song decades later is at the top of the charts for beating out Bad Bunny and, you know, all these top artists. And, you know, the world is just embracing it and discovering it and really hanging on to it. And I'm excited about it, because I feel like that song is like this emotional release. And to me, it's the audience is exhaling with that song like the rest of the world is with what we've been through. And I think that's why it's resonating so widely now. And it's just amazing. It's Stranger Things effect, man. What can I say? You know, it's a great thing.
And, you know, it's a testament to the show how many people we have on this panel, you know, because you're all nominated for Emmys. And, you know, there's so many different, fields and crafts and, you know, areas of expertise that you have. You don't all necessarily work side by side with each other. Does a period like this and the recognition that you get as a show and individually, you know, kind of give you a great opportunity to really kind of, you know, be together as a team? I don't know who wants to start on that one.
Well, I was saying in the beginning, I mean, I've never met Sarah. I, of course, know all about Sarah, and I follow her Instagram, which is amazing. But I've never met Sarah. I never met Barrie. I mean, I met Carmen from season 1 Emmy stuff, but yeah, a lot, you know, this is kind of neat. Like, I feel like we should all have margaritas, because that we all are getting to meet each other, and we don't usually interact, you know. I mean, I interact with Dean, of course, but I mean, not really.
I'm just going to jump in and just like, it's a real testament to the Duffer Brothers.
I was just going to say the same thing.
All these different people that are in completely different departments, we all work for this one goal, which is to get the Duffer's vision out there. And it's their genius to hire the best of the best of the best, to let that happen and allow us the freedom to be able to create and make that happen for them. Obviously with their, you know, direction, but it's really it's them putting this team together that works so seamlessly. Like, legit, I've never been on anything that, from writing to when we finished at the end, everything is just, it feels like it was just this one harmonious piece of, you know, art that we put together from so many different talented people. And so I'm honored to be on the panel with all these.
Also the level of trust, right?
Yes.
Like, I think I have ever gotten so much trust when it came to when I got the script with the Millie buzz cut, that she's shaving her hair off again. It's always been said that that's impossible and you can't do it. You have to do that in special effect makeup, right, Barrie? With a cap. There's like a prosthetic cap. But because Millie's so young, we did not have the privilege to go through and do it that way. And I was like, I think I can do it with a wig. I think there's a way to do it. I will need a little bit of money and a little bit of trust, and I'll do my best. And they said yes. They were like, we got full trust. Also Netflix and our producers, they definitely, if we say we think there's something we can achieve, the levels they will let us explore and have fun and kind of develop new technical achievements is amazing to me. And I'm so thankful for everything they let us do this year. They really are giving us the biggest challenges I think you can get. You never know what will happen on the day. They'll put everybody in water, they'll hang everybody upside down, put them in deserts and cars and fly them around. And you just kind of, they also expect us to just be ready to do it. And I think we have gotten better and better at just like running. I always tell my team, if we're not 10 steps ahead and we are kind of prepping for all 9 scripts at the same time, we're going to drown because you don't know what we're shooting tomorrow.
Well,
It can
especially
move up
this year, especially this last season, we really didn't. We had to like for us, we cast whole groups of people in Atlanta, and then all of a sudden they were going to be shot in Albuquerque in 3 days. So we had to recast all of that. And again, to the Duffers, I think what's very interesting about them as collaborators is that they have, you can feel in the show the specificity of all of their thinking and their writing and their directing and their producing of it. But it doesn't feel, I think I can speak for all of us, it doesn't feel like we're hamstrung by these specific ideas. It's like there's this very specific idea and then like a real dialogue around our version of that and their version and then for me, like actors who come in, their versions, and it's sort of a mind meld of all of these things that really create what I think feels very original, obviously, but also just incredibly cohesive. And I do think that being this being our 4th season and this many of us being nominated is a testament to that. It's really like, it is the most, we're the bones of the show.
I was going to say, I think being an outsider to Stranger Things and stepping in this year, it's one of the first shows we've ever joined and become a part of where it's already very well established. It's, you know, one of the biggest shows in the world. It's a huge IP, and just being welcomed into this family. And again, going from what Dean said, you know, it all stems from the top and the Duffers, but then I think it's testament to their hiring of getting this group of people together that, you know, heads of departments and their departments themselves are really at the top of their game. And I think it's quite interesting being part of production meetings, being part of this, then being on set and filming. You can see that the whole production is a very well-oiled machine. And that's probably down to the fact that, you know, the show is so many seasons in and all these problems have been ironed out before, but there's always brand new problems, obviously, with every season of a show. But I think the communication has been incredible on this show for us. I mean, we work with several departments. I mean, we worked with Sarah's department, Amy's department, and visual effects very closely. And we work very closely with Hiro as well. You know, we've never been responsible for such a big, complicated prosthetics character before and not had to do a stunt double. We're so used to doing doubles all the time. For every complicated character we do going into a show, we know there's going to be a double or more than one double. And Vecna, he never had a stunt double. And, you know, Jamie works with Hiro, and he was on wires. He was on this thing called, was it the lollipop? I think at one point he was being slung upside down. He did all of his own stunts. And, you know, I think a lot of the shots with Jamie where he's getting hurled across the room I mean, I just remember one shot in the mind layer with him being pulled backwards in slow motion. It was all Jamie. And I think in the final show, it is either Jamie doing all these stunts or it's a completely digital Jamie doing it. But again, it's testament to Hiro and his department, and it's experts at the top of the game. So we've been very privileged, you know, to
well, I can definitely tell you it's all Jamie. This never changed. That never went CG.
Jamie was incredible. I mean, that guy, after having to sit however many hours he took to get into his prosthetics before he even got on set, and then to have to come and get into a harness and hang in wires all day, it was like he by far like was amazing and never complained once, and just worked as hard as he could every day. And I mean, just to add to what everybody else is saying, the collaboration of everybody in this team and the people that I work with closely on the show every day is just, it's an incredible family. And I'm very honored to be a part of it. And I love this show, and everybody here that's on this panel, congratulations. I'm super stoked to be on here with all of you.
Same.
I'm always like,
Yeah, that's
how did
nice.
Carmen find these people? It's like it couldn't be anybody else but these people, these actors. It's real, it's crazy.
Especially in
really is.
secret. Like that's the thing for me. It's always like so secretive, and that is the hardest part. But it's again, it goes back to this level of enthusiasm of the Duffers. How they love the process. I'm sure that you guys all feel that, because I know it still feels like they're the little kids making short films, you know, digging holes under the railroad and shooting up. I'm sure you've all heard this story of their childhood short films, but it still feels that way. And I think it makes us all feel that way. And so, you know, it's fun to figure out the tricks for finding the new people and sort of looking at the formulas that inadvertently sort of popped up. I didn't know we were gonna, I didn't know that from the casting of Winona and then everyone else that somehow it would take form over the future seasons, that we would have sort of these iconic actors from movies that the guys loved. Like it just, like Robert Englund wouldn't be in the show this season if he didn't actually audition, because another thing, you know, the Duffers really like to, they really visualize it with actors' actual performances in front of them. So, you know, Englund auditioned for the role of the mayor in season 3, and we still had him audition again for his role this season. It wasn't like, oh, he was great as the mayor, like, or he didn't quite work as the mayor, let's put him in this. So it's just fun. Everyone coming to it is really excited about it and really fun. And, you know, sometimes I'm casting for parts that people don't know are for Stranger Things. And I think at this point, I mean, I work on a few secret, you know, highly confidential things, but at this point, I think everyone auditioning for me is just praying that whatever I'm doing, whatever they're reading for is Stranger Things.
Well, I want to congratulate all of you for your work on the show. You can see it all on the screen and you can hear it. It's a pleasure talking to all of you, and good luck at the Emmys. You know, meet up at the Creative Arts Awards, have a drink, and celebrate.
Thank you.
Thank you again for doing this. Appreciate it.